Wow, today has been insane. So not only did we have the final teaser trailer for Satisfactory 1.0, but immediately after, me, Bits and Snut jumped into a call together and we did a podcast. So if you haven't watched that, I do recommend checking it out. It's an hour long, but it is a pretty fun watch and you get some clarification on things that maybe weren't mentioned in the video, which I'm going to try and clarify in this video, which is breaking down everything that we've just seen. And guys, I need to know what you think that machine is, right? Well, we know what the machine is, it is the power augmenter, but I need to know what it's doing. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And guys, just as heads up, we are going to be streaming on twitch.tv/Totalxclipse, as well as on here for 1.0 come Tuesday. So do join us for that. We're going to start the streamathon and a whole new Let's Play series. But anyway, let's jump into it. And guys, please let me know if you think that Snut is telling us everything that's coming in 1.0 or whether they're holding a little bit more back for us. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, as we've yet to hear about the second space elevator part that's supposedly on the way. So I presume we have got more to come. Now, continuing from the last video at the end, we now have the new machine that we can see and now know as the power augmenter. Interestingly, in this shot, we also get a clear view of the new covered fences, which we haven't seen until now. And notice how there's nothing else here in the background. Snut then goes on to talk about the new liquid fuel types, of which we have two. The first being the Charizard rocket fuel, which is made combining nitric acid and turbo fuel. It can be used in fuel generators burning at 4.167 cubic meters, and the reason for this really weird number is they're trying to motivate us players to then turn this into the new type of fuel, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, rocket fuel can also be packaged and used in vehicles, as well as our jetpacks, and it's particularly useful for vertical lift in the jetpacks to get you on top of cliffs, for example, but it does burn very quickly. Now, this fuel, along with the ionized fuel, both have a byproduct of compacted coal, which can either be used in other resource chains or, should you wish, looped back into the turbo fuel setup, which really gets me interested in what kind of layouts we can produce and expect from this. Now, ionized fuel is the final version or evolution of our oil-based fuels, with the rocket fuel being combined with power shards to produce it. And interestingly, this is the first production chain, I believe, that we've seen that uses power shards in production. And it leads me to question whether we'll need to use power shards in other late game recipes as well. Now, ionized fuel can also be used in generators at 3 cubic meters and can also be packaged to be used in our jetpacks, providing a fast accelerating, slow burning fuel that is easier to control mid-air, making it perfect for most situations. And both of these fuels can be used to fuel vehicles, however this affects only the consumption rate, not speed. And interestingly, another big change is that drones can now use most types of fuel in the game. This lessens the need for batteries and reduces the overall consumption of sulfur in our factories, so it does make me question how much we'll be using batteries in 1.0. Now, with the different fuels used for drones, this also dictates how fast the drones fly, increasing overall throughput depending on the tier of fuel that we're using. And do note that the gas canisters here look very similar to the previous one in the toilet flush video, but they're not quite the same. So I'm guessing that this is the rocket fuel, and perhaps the other canister that we saw is maybe the packaged ionized fuel. We've also seen some awesome quality of life features in this trailer, such as the easy snapping of belts to other buildings. No longer will I accidentally misclick while building. Snapping is also returning to buildables on foundations, and more importantly, we have dotted lines to help us align buildings when we're holding control. Now, possibly the best quality of life feature is the straight belt placement. I know a lot of you have been talking about this. It allows us to easily do 90-degree turns, which will greatly increase the speed of building logistic lines. Unfortunately, this isn't applicable to the pipes, but they may allow it if enough people request it. Now, railway lines can be placed straight by holding control whilst placing them, making it much easier to build clean railway lines. And the other big quality of life change is that the chainsaw mode allows us to break one item at a time or choose the area of effect, which is perfect when we're trying to use nature when doing our various builds. As for buildables, we do have 3 new windows, we call all of them, the 2 new barriers as well, and 2 new fences, including the one that we saw at the start of this video. And there's also a stair piece as well. Now, this may not sound like a lot, but I'm sure people will be able to get really creative with them. And on top of that, we also have 5 new metallic finishes. These are chrome, copper, unpainted, carbon steel, and caterium, though I did want to be able to use a paint and be able to change the various colors while still having them as shiny metallic swatches. Now, we then have the Mercer Sphere revamp. Interestingly, it seems like they're still making the weird distorted Ada sounds, so I wonder if these are still related to the story, even though they have a purpose now, and Snut said they weren't related. Now, the Mercer Spheres, along with the Summer Sloop and Strange Alien Matter, all make up the new MAM research tree, and starting off with the SAM, it can now be used to create reanimated SAM. That is used in things like the converter that we've seen previously, but also for SAM fluctuators that we suspected previously. And a big addition with the SAM is that it's no longer limited, which will be great for the converter, and there are also more SAM nodes around the map for us to utilize. We then have the Summer Sloop, which can be used in the Power Augmenter. Now, this provides us with 500 megawatts, but also boosts your grid by 10%. And more importantly, this is stackable, but the boosts don't compound on other boosts. So honestly, I am a little confused with how it's worked out. I think I understand it, but we're going to skip the maths for now, and I'm going to research it once we get access to 1.0. Now, more importantly, Summer Sloop can also be used for alien production amplification, which, as we speculated a few videos ago, allows you to amplify the output of your machines, but this is very power hungry, and looking at the factory lines, it does seem to be a solid 4 times power to a 2 times output multiplier. And having spoken to Snut, you can't use this on power generation such as the power augmenters or the nuclear plants. And it's safe to assume that you won't be able to use this on a Mark III miner because it's taken them 5 years to give us a Mark VI belt that transports 1,200 items per minute. I'll be an old man when they give us 2,400 items per minute Mark XII belts. Next, we have the Dimensional Depot, aka the remote storage, which is built with the Mercer Spheres, which allows us to store the items in it, which once uploaded to the cloud can be grabbed from our inventory at any time. Now, there is an upload rate, which means that if you're inputting faster than the upload speed, the buffer will then fill, as you can see is happening here with the screws, until full, and I presume will back up after that. And we can instantaneously withdraw items from the cloud at any time wherever we are. Here we can see each item also has a max stockpile of 3 stacks, so we can actually assume that the MAM research allows us to upgrade to more stacks for 1.0. This will be a great addition to any storage facility, and you can bet I'll be working on a guide on this as soon as I can. We also have the ability to upload items from anywhere on the map, but at a slower speed. So this is going to be useful when you're exploring, if you want to send hard drives or slugs back to your base. This also makes exploration 10 times easier, as you won't need to take the drop pod unlock materials with you when you're going around now. Which makes this an incredible little game changer. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also be able to build from the dimensional depot storage, which saves us having to keep going back and forth to the base. And with this being a MAM research, we also have the ability to upgrade the stack size, as we noticed earlier, and the upload speed as well. Also, in this moment here, we can see a new item in the MAM, which we know is associated with the other half of the MAM tree, so presumably Summersloop, which we'll return to later. The dimensional depots will be available once we reach Steel, which does seem a touch early if I'm honest, but at the same time I won't complain that we have access to that. The production amplification of machines will be available in Tier 5 and the power augmenters in Tier 6, which is the same stage that we can start to use fuel generators, if I remember rightly. Now, one thing to note with the Summersloop is that they have rejigged the amount on the map, and I believe Snup mentioned in the podcast that we've just done that there are less Summersloop on the map, so it will be a case of juggling the use of them for power augmentation or production amplification. Now, at the moment, I am leaning towards focusing on power augmentation in my factories, as that's always been a particular struggle for me. Now, we then have the Mark II blueprinter confirmed, bringing us a 5x5 foundation grid, which will help a little, but to be honest, I was hoping for something slightly larger, as I do want to be able to do railway junctions in it. And with this, you will not be able to spawn in your current blueprints, however, you will be able to add them manually by placing them into the designer. And then finally, we're given this sneak peek showing us the power augmenter going War of the Worlds on us, with it starting to levitate. Now, I would love to hear what you guys think of what this is in the comments below. Now, my first impression was that either it's the startup animation for the build, such as the one that we see for the well pressurizer, or that it's extracting energy from the Summersloop to create new Summersloop-like shards to be used in place of Summersloop machines. But looking closer, we can see there's a new item on the belt to the left of it, which we didn't see before, and it was working in the previous one without those items. So what's changed? Well, returning to the item that we saw in the MAM, it does look like they could be the same, and if so, relate specifically to this building, as we know it's in the Summersloop section. So if that is the case, is this using the items in the building, and if so, what could it be for? Again, it does make me think we could be charging these items that we see on the belt to make potentially a usable item in the other machines slots instead of Summersloop, because we do know Summersloop's rare. Or perhaps there's something like a new space elevator part. But guys, do let me know your thoughts below, and make sure to join me in stream after this on twitch.tv/Totalxclipse. Oh, and don't forget to join me on Tuesday for the full release as well, as we're going to be streaming and checking out everyone's factories that were submitted in the fan factory tours over on my Discord. But anyway, guys, special thanks does go to all of our supporters on Patreon, most notably our Solo Eclipse Patreon Firefless, as well as our Lunars, the Calamity, Ben and Star, and our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Brainslug. But until next time, as always, ciao for now.